Welcome back to ACB Wrestling Talk, your main source for wrestling news and wrestling discussions. I'm, of course, your host, Alexis Carrillo, and let's get into some wrestling talk. And we had quite a turn of events this past night on Impact Wrestling, just yesterday, because in what I assumed was going to be the main event of the evening, which it wasn't, but I also assumed there was going to be pretty much a win by Tessa Blanchard and Rich Swann over OVE. Once more. Turns out OVE, with their brand new Impact World Champion Sami Callihan leading the charge, ended up getting the win over Blanchard and Swann, which typically surprised a lot of people because, like I said, the way Impact Wrestling has been booking Ohio versus everything, and especially the Chris brothers and Sami Callihan in some instances, it just seems like they always are just losing to the baby faces, and all they ever get is just the opportunity to be giant heels by, cheating and causing distractions, causing interference, and beating down the baby faces. But that's it. They never win matches. In this case, they did. They beat this tag team made up of two future possible #1 contenders to the Impact World title. As a matter of fact, I believe on December 7th, Rich Swann is going to challenge the Impact World Champion Sami Callihan for the Impact World title on an event on Impact Plus. I'm forgetting the name. And next week, we're going to have ourselves a six-person, gotta get used to it, six-person elimination match to determine the brand new #1 contender to the Impact World Championship. After Swann's opportunity, apparently, because it's going to be Michael Elgin versus Rich Swann versus Tessa Blanchard versus Moose versus Daga versus the man who came out and made the save for the team of Swann and Blanchard last night, and the team who pretty much inserted himself and put himself in that match, Mr. Brian Cage, the former world champion, The Machine, who, just yesterday I pretty much said that Impact Wrestling pretty much swept under the rug and said bye-bye Brian Cage. Well, it appears The Machine has come out and, made me eat my words, but the real question is, can The Machine get the job done next week and become #1 contender once more? So Sami Callihan gets the win for his team, as he should. He's the Impact World Champion. He deserves some respect. He deserves some wins. And definitely he deserves a long title reign. So whoever comes out of this six-person elimination match, I would assume has very little chances of becoming world champion. Now, some of you already know how I even know who's coming out of this six-person elimination match with the win. I already know that, due to spoilers, due to sometimes Impact Wrestling even spoiling themselves. But just because this is a different company, just because, they've taped weeks and weeks in advance, doesn't mean I'm going to change my policy, and I plead to you not to comment below on who's going to be winning this match next week. I already know, you may already know. Some people might not know, some people might not want to know and just want to wait until next week and actually watch what unfolds in the middle of that Impact ring. Speaking of #1 contenders, last night we also got Trey. Surprisingly, the member of the Rascals, Trey, became the #1 contender to the X Division champion, Ace Austin. Now, as entertaining as their rivalry and feud may be in the ensuing weeks, I really doubt that Trey would become X Division champion anytime soon. It just seems like Impact Wrestling is really behind this Ace Austin as triple X Division champion in this whole gimmick. And unfortunately for Trey, just for right now, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy you want leading the X Division. But who knows? It's pro wrestling. Anything can happen. And, I wouldn't mind seeing Trey as X Division champion. So we'll just have to wait and see what goes down. And finally, in a match that completely took me off guard last night, because when the announcer proclaimed that the North had retained their Impact World Tag Team titles after defeating Eddie Edwards and Marufuji, I was completely surprised, because you saw it yesterday, and even after the match even began, I think I wasn't really paying attention. I did not know, I had no idea that this match was for the Impact World Tag Team titles. And as I predicted, the North beat this team, but my real question is, did Eddie Edwards waste his Call Your Shot Gauntlet match, championship match, win, whatever you want to call it, on this tag team match teaming with Marufuji? Did he just waste it last night on Impact Wrestling? Again, I have to go back into it, and research as to what exactly transpired on Impact Wrestling, and actually pay attention this time. But, that's pretty intriguing. I'm pretty curious about that entire thing, because I've predicted that Eddie Edwards was coming out of that Call Your Shot Gauntlet match with the win, and he would eventually challenge for the Impact World title against Sami Callihan, and I'm hoping that indeed takes place. So, if you have any idea if he just wasted his shot as the crazy gimmick he's already got going on, leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions, and let me know in the comments section below. And, with these taped episodes, Impact Wrestling does it all the time. I can't remember the last time Impact Wrestling had a live episode, but a company that doesn't have as many taped episodes as these other promotions is the WWE. In this case, they did, being that they had to tape in the United Kingdom due to the extreme time difference. It usually, they will never try to make it a live episode of Monday Night Raw, which is understandable, but there are various reports online just stating the fact that WWE has edited Seth Rollins' in-ring segment from this past Monday night on Raw. Hell, I've even done some research, and in some spoiler chat boards and some spoiler news pieces, there are news that Seth Rollins comes out to a mixed reaction. Whereas if you go back and watch WWE's broadcast of Monday Night Raw, and even their YouTube clip on that segment, Seth Rollins' reaction, or the crowd's reaction towards Seth Rollins rather, is much more, not overwhelming positive, but still positive nonetheless. So, this isn't breaking news. This isn't brand new. We've seen it done in the past. I believe the one company who started this trend of actually editing and the crowd reactions was WCW back in 2000, back in 2001, during their dying days. And WWE has done it in the past. Impact Wrestling has done it many, many times in the past, back when they were TNA. So this isn't shocking at all. If WWE wants to control the narrative, they want to control the crowd reaction as it pertains to one of their top stars, and they can. They've got all the right to do so. It's their product. It's their superstar. It's their public image of their product, and in this case, of Seth Rollins. The real question is, and the real thing to be worried about, is that Seth Rollins' popularity seems to be waning on the WWE crowd. We talked about this last week right here on Wrestling Talk. Seth Rollins doesn't seem to be as popular as he used to, and this just appears to be, another case of that. So, what does WWE have to do to bring Seth Rollins back up and have him be Seth freaking Rollins? Have this be Monday Night Rollins once again? What does WWE have to do, and what do you think has caused Seth Rollins' popularity to go down with the WWE fans? I've already gone into it from last week. I think it's just his over pandering to the crowd, of him being a babyface and him leading Monday Night Raw. But, maybe you have a different take on it. Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comments section below. Speaking of competition, speaking of a company that claims to be Ellis Island, speaking of a company who claims to have, the utmost freedom for their professional wrestlers, we're talking, of course, All Elite Wrestling, where one half of the Young Bucks, named Nick Jackson, recently came out on social media and talked about how, All Elite Wrestling has the win-loss records, but they're not going to be sticking around forever, at least not in their current incarnation, because Nick Jackson has stated that in the future, these win-loss records are going to reset, meaning that we probably are never going to get Cody having a 48-46 kind of win-loss record. We're never going to get that. But they will reset, so that begs the question, will AEW be the very first company to actually bring full-on seasons to professional wrestling on a year-to-year basis? Will AEW be the pioneer in this entire brand new system in terms of presenting sports entertainment to the fans? We've talked about this ever since the beginning of this year. AEW has been wanting to be this more sports based professional wrestling venture. They've gone as far as to call themselves a league. I've seen tons of commercials where they call themselves a league instead of a promotion or a company. So they're obviously heading towards the sports fan base in terms of how they present their product. But the real question is, can it be done? Can they pull it off? And do they have a backup plan in the matter of if it doesn't work out? You always need a backup plan in case stuff, doesn't pan out. And, it's going to take a while before this, before we see this actually, be in effect for AEW, as, Dynamite has just started in October. But I'm pretty much looking forward to what's going to be next September, next October, when they reset their win-loss records, possibly. Not to mention, tonight we have yet another episode of Dynamite where, we're going to get some reaction from Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Why did he attack Cody? Why did he lay him out? It seems like we know why he threw in the towel for his best friend, although right now it seems a little bit more doubtful since he turned on his best friend, Cody, at the end of the championship match at Full Gear. So we'll just have to wait and see what goes down tonight on TNT. Speaking of the Wednesday Night Wars, NXT has yet another episode ready for tonight on the USA Network. And we recently got the return of Finn Balor to the quote-unquote developmental brand, which they are trying to turn into this brand new third brand in the same level as a Raw and as a SmackDown, which I will admit will take some time. But we also had Seth Rollins, pondered the decision of possibly heading back down to NXT, only as NXT champion, of course, but he did ponder it on Monday Night Raw, and now Cesaro has appeared on the latest episode of After the Bell and being asked by Corey Graves if he would ever head back down to NXT instead of staying on the main roster, either on Raw and SmackDown Live. Cesaro has pretty much stated that he wouldn't be opposed to the idea of NXT, but he would much rather want to make things work right now on his current brand, which I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe his current brand is SmackDown. I think that's his current brand, and if any brand is perfect for him in the main roster, it's definitely going to be SmackDown. This is what Cesaro had to say. I want to succeed on Raw and SmackDown. You know what I mean? Would I succeed in NXT? Yes. I just want to be successful. I want to do what I do best. And I think bell to bell, I'm pretty good at everything and pretty good all around. I know people hate on the way I talk or whatever, but English wasn't my first language when I came to the US. So I kind of had to rely on my wrestling a little bit more. And also, I traveled to Mexico and Japan when I didn't speak Spanish or Japanese, and you have to engage the crowd no matter where you go. At the end of the day, even if you watch NXT, those days where some people have a 15-minute, 20-minute monologue, hopefully redone because there needs to be conflict big enough that you don't just talk about it for 15 minutes, but you actually go do something, or somebody else is coming to do something about it. That's what's interesting to me. So obviously Cesaro, he clearly by what he had to say, isn't opposed to returning to NXT. He wants to stay on the main roster, and by all means, you ask anyone, any WWE fan, any wrestler on the current WWE roster, you ask them, does Cesaro have what it takes to be on the main roster? Does he have what it takes to succeed on SmackDown or on Raw? 99 times out of 100, they will say yes, based on pure wrestling ability alone. But that one guy out of 100 will tell you that his mic skills do lack in terms of, actually being a top star, in terms of being a main eventer. That's where he lacks. And he just made a very honest and clear point. US is in his country. English is in his first language. So we do have to give him some slack right there. But hey, tonight NXT on the USA Network, it's always going to be live from now on. So you never know. Cesaro might appear. Hell, Tyler Breeze might appear. I think he's already have appeared on NXT. So we'll just have to wait and tune in to see what happens on tonight's episode of NXT on the USA Network. And finally, CM Punk has returned to professional wrestling. That's right. The voice of the voiceless, the leader of cult of personality in professional wrestling, CM Punk has returned to professional wrestling. And no, he doesn't have an opponent. No, he won't be getting back into a wrestling ring with tights and wrestling boots per se, because he will be getting back into a ring. It's just gonna be a what is it? A post show. That's what WWE Backstage is, and it came as a shock because it came at the very last few seconds of last night's episode of Backstage, where Renee Young teased a surprise that apparently nobody else on the floor knew about, and then we heard the familiar shh, and then the electric guitar, and now came CM Punk to that iconic music. And honestly, I just marked out because I really missed hearing that song and watching CM Punk come out to that song. I really missed that, and I'm hopeful that CM Punk and WWE can hopefully work something out and have CM Punk return to the actual ring. But the main question is, other than the economics, other than financially, CM Punk left WWE back in 2014 due to creative differences, due to the fact that he wasn't on board with WWE's creative team. It's fair to say that, their creative team hasn't changed much, and, some people might argue that, it's gotten worse. So with that in mind, I don't think CM Punk might be itching to, sign a contract with WWE once again. So, we have to battle that. But for now, CM Punk will be a part of Backstage. He will be a part of next week's episode of Backstage. It is a weekly show, isn't it? He will be a part of next week's Backstage broadcast on WWE. And, Fox Sports has announced that he will appear periodically on the show. He apparently won't be a regular, but he might be appearing on, on a every 2-3 week basis. You never know. And I just have to point this out. He isn't currently signed to WWE. Backstage is a show about WWE, but it is a show produced by Fox Sports with WWE personalities and others as well. So CM Punk isn't currently working together with WWE. Just wanted to point that out. But what do you think? Do you think this shocking and surprise appearance by CM Punk on Backstage will lead to an in-ring return for CM Punk inside a 20x20 WWE ring? Or do you think it's just, CM Punk's got to work. He's got to work for a living, and he's got to do something of his life and do something with what he's learned in professional wrestling, and this is just a perfect venture and the perfect time for him to do so. Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you dislike this video, hit the dislike button. That's been it for me. I've been Alexis Carrillo. See you tomorrow on another episode of Wrestling Talk. That's it for me. Till next time.